Hi there, folks. My name's NovaWing24, and welcome to another episode, a long overdue episode of The Three Grumpy Simmers. And of course, once again, I have been joined by my two fellow other Grumpy Simmers. I've been joined, of course, by Sergio from helisimmer.com.
Hey everyone.
And I have been joined we have been joined once again by purple hat wearing Tomcat aficionado, VR aficionado, and expert, Belgeode.
Howdy, folks. It's been too long. I've been trapped in this house since March.
We do want to say apologies to everybody, to all of our fans, old and new, for taking so long. I know a lot of you have been looking forward to us and thoughts on a certain new simulator that may or may not have just been released. Well, actually, that's the problem. I can't even say just been released anymore because it's what?
It's been 2 months? Almost 3.
Almost 3 months now.
Yeah,
feels like more like 10 years.
That's so true. It's so true, and we do want to say apologies for that, but it's been a challenging time for all of us, as it has been, of course, for everybody on this planet. And a lot of things have been happening in the background that have limited our ability to get together. But of course, we are here now, and on that note, I do understand that many of you, especially many people have been contacting me, and I'm assuming this is probably the same for you two gentlemen as well, is that people have been really looking forward to our take on the new sim. And sorry, this episode's not it. Sorry, just want to get that one out of the way to start with. So a couple of reasons for that one. Firstly, how to do it is probably because there's just so much that happens with that sim. There's just it's huge. Like it's huge. So
the first time we talked about it in depth, we talked for 1 hour and 15-30 minutes, something like that. I don't think people are ready to sit through the Lord of the Rings version of Three Grumpy Simmers when it comes to Microsoft Flight Simulator.
And that was take 2. The first take, I think, took almost 2 hours.
Yeah. We spent almost 2 hours talking about the sim back in September when we just finished the global preview event.
Yeah.
First time we met, we spent probably about 2 hours talking about something that we have just seen. Now imagine
now that we've got hands on it for longer.
Yeah.
And that was just on camera. That's not even counting the off-camera conversation.
So everybody, there is a lot that we want to cover off with Microsoft Flight Simulator, and all of us, I think, we want to know we want to approach it the right way, and it's something that I talk about on my live streams, and I've talked about on my channel at other points as well. And Sergio, I know you've talked about it in your articles as well.
Yeah,
is that much like where we believe Asobo's going with this? Is that we want to do this right. So if we are going to do this, we don't want to be first to market, or we just want to splash a headline out like unfortunately a large number of YouTubers and Twitch streamers seem to be wanting to do. They just want to get a headline out and say, blah, and make unsubstantiated claims and just do stuff. We want to make sure we get it right, which means that we're going to take our time. We're going to work with the many resources that we all share and we all have access to, and that we can hopefully try and, we've got a professional nagger here as well. It's literally his job description. So we want to make sure that
It reminds me of a song too. Baby, we can do it. Take your time, do it right. We can do it, baby. Do it tonight, or maybe next year, because it ain't happening in a couple of months.
Kick in right now.
So folks, look for that coming early next year. Because as I said, we want to take our time. We want to make sure that we do it right. And we're actually going to circle back to this topic in a little bit later in this episode. But yeah, so we do want to say apologies if that's what you're here for. We're coming here for a slightly different topic today. Anything you guys want to add to that while I'm apologizing for all of us?
No.
We're good.
I'd say that pretty much summed it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, we already have a title for this episode, not Microsoft Flight Simulator. So that's good, right?
True. True.
Because
Yeah,
you
that
know,
works. That works.
yeah,
Um.
it works. It still has Microsoft Flight Simulator there. So hashtags and whatnot. People come see and then
Is it
oh,
clickbait?
Okay. Okay.
I
Sorry.
don't
I'm.
know.
well,
I'm totally
not
going. I'm going to totally going to go off on a rant here because I've had this rant before and I'm going to come back to it again. Is that I am sick to in death of logging onto Twitch and or Facebook gaming and watching people who are saying that they are flying Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I jump onto their stream to have a look at it, and I'm looking at X-Plane, I'm looking at Prepared, I'm looking at Prepared V4, V5, and I'm like, I was even one of them was FSX, and I'm like, no, just no, and unfortunately, it's not even like it's small streamers who are starting out. These are big names. These are
Hmm.
partners that are doing this, and I,
yeah.
you guys, especially if anybody who follows me regularly knows that I'm big about being honest with the community, and I think that is the best way to be. And I know Sergio, you're a strong believer in that, and Drew, you are as well. Is that being honest with the community, being open with your communication with your community is key to engaging and building a positive community. And I look at these streamers and go, so what are you creating if you're willing to lie
Mhm.
to your community? Like, what are you creating? So I'm going to get off my soapbox now. So, sorry, does that just totally, completely random? But needed to get that out. Okay, so we are talking about something today that's very, very important to all three of us, and has affected us all at some point or other. And we want to talk about, and I think it's really, really important with the year that we've all had. And we want to talk about simming and your mental health. As a simmer, as a creative, as somebody who enjoys gaming. So this topic today isn't necessarily restricted just to simming, but it is a lot of what we're going to talk about is applicable just in your everyday life. It's going to be applicable in your perhaps it's going to be applicable in your work life, but we want to talk about strategies and things and experiences that the three of us have had, and things to maybe help you guys through some challenging times as well, because um, it's something that we, especially in this, and I'm sort of going to throw to you guys here for your thoughts on this one, but I've noticed it arising more lately, is that there seems to be this stress, this feeling of angst. That's not the good teenage angst kind of angst. It's this foreboding and this stress that seems to be enveloping the simulation gaming community, and the gaming community really is a wider as a wider community as well. Um, I think it's been coming for a while, but I think it's really been noticeable this year through social media, and I'm sort of just wondering, if you guys have been getting that same sense when when we talk on discords with our communities and our friends and our new simmers, or when you're talking with people on Facebook groups, because we all moderate a variety of Facebook groups and forum threads. So I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say and think and what your experiences have been so far.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Discord. I actually don't use Discord. This right here, what we are doing, this is literally the only time I ever use Discord. It's gotten that bad that I even want to log in.
You,
Facebook, different story. I kind of don't have a choice. I'm an admin in multiple groups, so somebody's got to be the one to keep the peace, and so on and so forth. And thankfully, there's help in that department. But a lot of the times, a lot of my online time is spent basically babysitting adults. Not even kids. I can't even just blame it on the kids, even though I'd love to be that guy that tells people to get off my lawn. I can't even say it's kids. I'm noticing it more and more with older, like 30s and up.
mm,
And it is a little disheartening. And I realize what's going on. Basically everything that we've been subjected to this year has been stressful. Think about it.
Mm,
Has anything in this year since about February been what any of us can consider normal?
mm.
Absolutely nothing. It's all been a giant, what, and we've had to deal with it.
With no
And a
lube.
lot of that with no, yeah. And a lot of that, typically, whenever we're under stress, we try to find things that are going to, circumvent a lot of that sublimation, what have you, whatever the psychological term is for it. And in particular, with us, for the viewing audience, for those of us in this media right now,
Mm,
that's simming. That's actually hopping in a virtual aircraft, flying around. This is basically how we unwind. But what I've been noticing, and Sergio, you can back me up in a minute here. What I'm noticing is a lot of people are not using simming necessarily to vent or to release their stresses. They're focusing their frustrations in something that's supposed to be a pastime, something that's supposed to bring them joy. And I can tell you, just from my standpoint as someone who's been a musician for like 26 years, when it stopped being fun and became a chore for me to strap on a bass and go on stage, that's when I knew it was time for me to quit.
mm.
I see basically the same kind of thing happening throughout the simulation world right now. I see a lot of people that are banging their head against the wall, whether it be chasing FPS numbers or being impatient about updates and so on and so forth from various developers, various sims, or even, their own self-inflicted things. They're trying to do things that they're just not ready for, or they haven't taken the time to learn about and so on. It's all coming back and it's all basically creating more stress in something that really should not be stressful at all. So, you know, once we can recognize that, then maybe we can do something about it. But I think collectively, all of us need to take like a little step back
Mm.
and reevaluate why we're doing this and basically start thinking more about alternatives that we can do to help to alleviate some of the stress that we're adding to our own equation. And make no bones about it, this is like a self-fulfilling prophecy. We are adding our own stress where
Hmm.
it's absolutely not needed.
And I think and that's it's a real key concept, that one, is that this is here as a hobby. It's there for enjoyment, for there to we embrace this hobby, we embrace this passion, this whatever you want to call it, because we want to enjoy it. But when we project, I definitely hear what you're saying there, and I've seen it as well, is that projecting our, and in a bit of a way I kind of get it, because you're trying to project things, especially and again, disclaimer on this whole episode, by the way, we're not mental health professionals. Like, seriously, if you feel like you need help, just please reach out. There is no stigma in it. But I know myself
We
is
are
that
we are we are mental, just not professionals.
that's right, 100% correct. And I don't know, I'll be the first one to admit that I have projected my inability to deal with real life scenarios and situations onto my hobby. And it was a very difficult thing for me to recognize that. And it is an incredibly hard thing to realize and hard thing to recognize, and also, even recognizing is one thing, doing something about it is a whole nother story. Um, but I really, really want to pick up on it. It's about fun. We do this to relax, to unwind. Now, whether that is, landing a helicopter on a postage stamp inside of a timber forest in Alaska, or whether it's flying a 14-hour, an 18-hour flight from Perth to Heathrow. If that's what enjoyment and relaxation for this hobby looks like to you, both are equally valid. Um,
Yeah.
And I really, so that's a subset to that is I want to say that that what is a valid way of unwinding and relaxing for you and enjoying a hobby for you
Hmm.
is not necessarily going to be the same for the next person. Um,
Yeah, and
Absolutely. Absolutely.
it's funny. It's funny that you mentioned that we're not professionals. We're not professionals. We're not trying to be your psychologist or anything like that. But here's the thing: we are probably the three of us are probably the second best thing after a professional, which is we were victims of this. The three of us. We have talked in the past, and you, Tristan, you felt burned out, you know, some time ago, or you feel burned out now and then. Drew, you went through the same, both in music and probably in teaming as well, as we talked before. And even I was a victim of this burnout as well. So when I talk about this subject, I don't just talk about theories or things that are on my head that I think it's true. It's things that I know are true because I went there. I was also guilty of chasing numbers years ago and trying to get the sim to work at this proper bracket because it
mm,
had to. And then I was a victim of adding add-ons after add-ons after. And look, what's the first thing that people do when they get a new sim? They ask what are the must-have add-ons,
Must have
and
and
add-ons.
what is
Yep.
what is the thing that we preach ad nauseum to say to all of those people?
don't
None of
install
them.
and don't install. No add-ons are necessary for you to enjoy the
Mm-mm.
sim, and that's what we're trying to say. We say it not because we are trying to be elitist and say people, oh, you don't need it. I'm better than that. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that we have been there. We have been in the position in
Hmm.
which we installed add-ons after add-ons, and after some time,
Mm,
the sim started to crawl down and just be useless because it had so many crap on it. So that's where we come from. We come from a background in which we have experienced that, and after some time of experiencing that, and we're talking about probably years. I remember when I installed Windows perhaps every 3 months or something like that because I wanted to have the best performance. I had the patience back there. I'm 44 years old. I don't have any patience to do that anymore. But I did have the patience to do that every 3 months or every six
You
months
and
or
me,
something
brother.
like that.
To be
Yeah.
fair, an SSD makes it a lot faster now. I managed to do a complete
Hmm.
Windows reinstall a
Yes.
few a
Yes.
few months back. Or actually, no, a
We
few years
spent
back for in
we
less than a day.
I spent I usually spend 2 days
Mm,
getting the computer almost ready. I wouldn't say ready because there was also always software that we only installed when we needed it,
mm,
but most of the stuff was done in 2 days, not in I don't know, half a day or something like that, like we can do today. So we are victims of this, the three of us. We are talking from experiencing all this. So it's not like we're coming from just, made up theories or anything like that. So when we tell you that one of the first, well, the first thing, I wouldn't say this is an addiction. This is a problem. This is a mental problem. This is a serious mental problem and people don't even realize it. But the first step for you to realize that you have the problem is to actually realize that you have the problem. You need to understand what is it that you are doing with your simming.
and
Okay, are you
yeah,
simming or are you just tweaking the sim and trying to improve the sim and trying to
mm,
improve your hardware and spending thousands of dollars? I have seen guys spending literally thousands of dollars chasing the numbers. They had good frames per second on X-Plane, for example. It was decent, for I know that you guys, a lot of you guys go, oh, I need to have 60 frames per second, otherwise I'll just notice the flickering. Okay, I
I'm
can
waiting. I'm waiting for. I can feel the hate comments starting
I can
already.
look, I can understand that. I can understand, but here's the thing.
Mm,
If you realize your hardware is not going to give you 60 frames per second, you'll have to live with it or spend money.
mm,
But if you spend money, don't expect miracles because you're not going, if you're getting with all your add ons and your settings and your anti-aliasing to the max and whatnot, if you are getting about 40, 50 frames per second and you are expecting to get 60 frames per second, perhaps the new graphics card won't give you that, that much of a difference that you reach the 60 frames per second constantly, but you probably need to just compromise. And I think that a lot of the times people don't understand that they need to compromise to get a result. Look, I have
Yeah.
a GTX
Mm-hmm.
1660.
Mm.
It's it's a it's not a bad graphics card, but mm, it's a 1660. It's not even a 2070 or something.
Dude,
It's
I'm running
struggle.
I'm
And
running a 1080, a 1080 first edition.
yeah, and
Team
I
Red, Team Red,
and
Radeon 7.
Team Green. I'm gonna own Team Green. Team Green.
and I
What?
use VR.
Mm,
Do you know how hard it is to be able to get some decent frames per second, some different FIPS on this machine?
mm.
It's hard. I just learned to compromise and not fill my sims with add-ons that make it run slower.
And
And
that's a
that's it.
really good, yeah, that's a really good point. And it's look at, so again, we're going to circle back this, we're going to keep circling back to this, folks, is that we sim, all of us, to relax, to enjoy. Okay, this is what we do. This is what we do for recreation. We do this to unwind, to escape, the proverbials of the real world, at least for a short time. So if you are spending more of your time fiddling with config files, or going through menus, or you know complaining that you've only got 59 frames per second and not 60, then why are you here? Why are you doing it? And that's a really important question that you need, that we all
Mm-hmm.
need to ask ourselves. Now I'm going to completely own this. I was that guy. I was 100%. I was chasing 60 frames per second. I was chasing absolute highest graphics. I was chasing every single number. I wanted to have the highest LOD details. I wanted to have the highest resolution. I want to have everything to the max. Sliders full right, as we used to say. Um, and I literally spent no time simming. I spent all my time fiddling with config files, trying out new configurations, trying every add-on under the sun, every tweak known to the sun, annoying people on forums. And did I learn a lot? Yeah. Did it make me any happy? Did I enjoy simming? Hell no. I almost walked away from the whole genre completely because of that. And in the end, it was somebody in the flight simulation community. He literally said to me, asked me, why do I sim?
yeah,
And I said, I sim because I enjoy it. He said, and they turned around to me and said, are you enjoying it right now? And I stopped because I was about to say, I snapped, of course I enjoy it. And then I stopped right before I said it, and I went, you know what, I'm not enjoying it. And then I had to look, why am I not enjoying it? Why am I not enjoying it? And as Sergio just said, because I was chasing numbers. I was chasing so many frames per second. I was chasing such and such a resolution. I was chasing this, that, and the other. And I didn't stop to actually think about how much time am I spending simming? Like, and actually, am I enjoying it? And that's sort of what we want everybody to think about, is think about how you spend your time with your sim. Do you actually spend your time in the sim doing the things that you love doing, or are you getting caught up in menus, or are you getting caught up complaining that somebody else's way of simming is different to yours and you don't like it? Like, it's an each to their own kind of a thing, because at the end of the day, and I've said this before, that simming is what we all make of it.
True.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I would love
And
to pick that one up. Yeah, that let me. I'm
and
sorry,
going
G.
back to like the whole hardware thing as well,
Hmm.
especially now, we've got Nvidia
Oh dear God,
releasing new
yes.
hardware. We've got
No,
AMD on the verge of releasing new hardware. And I'm seeing a lot of that coming up online. People are looking for the numbers, which one is going
yeah,
to be the better bet, and so on and so forth. Folks, let me just remind you, this is not your typical video game. A flight simulator is just as much CPU bound as it is GPU bound. So if you still have, I don't want to say a crappy, but I'm going to say a crappy CPU, and you throw in this ultra mega 6,000, 8,000, whatever,
So,
guess what?
sorry, I just had this image of an Intel
Yeah.
Celeron and somebody mating that with a 3090.
You're still going to get crap
And
FPS
yeah,
because the CPU is bottlenecking.
and 100% on that. And like,
something-
okay, so as I said before, like I'm sorry, sorry, Sergio. It's like I said to Sergio and to you guys before. I'm still running a 1080 first edition, not even a TI.
Yeah.
I'm still running.
I'm still running the 1660, so I'm even worse than you.
And you know what? Actually, no, I thought the 1660 was newer than mine.
It's newer, but the performance is worse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just slightly better than 1060. It's between the 1060 and the 1070.
Right.
So
So
yeah,
we're comparable.
It's running.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's running. You young people probably don't remember this. But back in
my day, sorry.
back in my days. But seriously, a lot of you guys probably don't actually remember this, but flight simulators used to be the benchmarking software used when you got a new computer.
Can it run Microsoft Flight Simulator? That was the question you always asked for a new PC.
Exactly.
Can it run Microsoft Flight Simulator? Yep.
It actually happened. This actually happened. People went to the stores and asked if it could, because if it could run Microsoft Flight Simulator, it was a good computer.
And that was why FS 2000, FS9, and FSX all had a kiosk mode. Was for that exact reason, because you're in the computer store, the demonstration of whatever computer they were trying to sell you, it would be the demo model would be sitting there in the store with this kiosk mode running to show that yes, this computer is so amazing because it can run Microsoft Flight Simulator. Who knows?
So yes,
I think that still needs to be a benchmark. I mean, seriously, it still does need to be a benchmark. We've got Cyberpunk 27 that's coming out. As of the time of this recording, we've been told December the 10th. Cyberpunk 2077 is coming out. Looking forward to it, by the way. That's my escape from simming. The PC specs on that, the ideal PC specs, are actually lesser than what Microsoft and Asobo has for their PC specs for Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Yeah.
I think, and I think with Microsoft coming back into the game, I think we are going to see a new era of this idea of, Microsoft Flight Simulator being the benchmark again. And I am really looking forward to that. And so yeah, we'll probably, so I think that's the great way to look at it. And that also is a great segue into sort of like the next thing that we want to look at, that is that we just talked about the history that Microsoft Flight Simulator has come through. Plus we have the history of X-Plane with all its iterations, Aerofly through its various iterations as well. Even Flight Gear through all its iterations as well. DCS starting with a modern, what was it? Lock-on Air Combat. Yeah. I still remember playing Lock-on Modern Air Combat and Falcon 1 and 2. I never played BMS, but so that's so as well as recognizing these sort of, if you're recognizing when it's good time for you, if you're obsessing about numbers and spending less time simming, maybe take a step back stop chasing those numbers. Just take a step back just to enjoy the sim, but also reflect on and also appreciate where your sim of choice, whichever one of those or any of the other ones that are out there. I mean, Elite Dangerous is another one that's had quite the journey. That your sim of choice has come so far. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
And like anything else, it's not static. It's going to continue to evolve as the tech evolves and as the software evolves. So you can't expect to just be in one little time capsule. It's not going to happen.
and don't get hung up on Oh, this sim doesn't have up-to-date Jefferson charts in it.
I don't even use those. I do bush flying for the most part.
But
Yeah.
it's like, okay, so it doesn't. It has approach plates. Does it have 100% accurate ones right now to the millisecond that you're logging in? No. Can you appreciate the fact that for the first time in Flight Simulator, in commercial off the shelf, available to the ordinary user, that you even have approach plates built in to the navigation tool? Can we appreciate that for a second? Like, this is the thing, guys. It's like, people seem to be getting hung up on, and they're hanging shit on developers for, hounding them for updates, chasing them for stuff, and not just taking fight and demanding the most in. While some requests are perfectly valid, don't get me wrong, because are the Sims that are out there, whether they be from Lockheed Martin, whether they be from Microsoft, whether they be from IPAX, whether they be from Eagle Dynamics, do they all have their issues? Hell yes. Are they all perfect? Hell no. Will they ever be perfect? No. If you think they are, you probably need to move out of your fantasy world and back into the real world. But can we appreciate what we've got? Yes, absolutely. Hold developers to account 100%. I'm not saying don't hold them to account when things break or things are wrong or things are stopping the game from being able to be played. But can we appreciate the fact that we have access to such amazing technology now? I mean, the three of us here, all three of us have seen flight sims go from literally solid white lines on a black
Yep.
screen. Your terrain, there was no terrain. There was a white cross in the distance that was your airfield that you had to line up to.
Yeah.
I still remember flying.
Absolutely.
I still remember flying I think it was supposed to be a Cessna 152 in Flight Simulator 2, because technically it was the first one that Microsoft made, or when they bought Sublogic. But I remember flying that and trying to land that.
Exactly. Here's the thing. It's exactly what you said before, Tristan, and I want to pick that up. Sims are what you made of it, or are what you make of it, right?
Yep.
Here's the thing. You need to do your part. You need to do your as a simmer, as someone that is enjoying the hobby, you need to do your part. And your part has nothing to do with chasing frames per second. Your part has nothing to do, well, in some way it is with spending a few $1,000s on hardware, because you do need a computer, right? So you do need to do that part, but you need to do your part in this, not in the sense of chasing these numbers and going crazy trying to tweak the sim,
Mm.
but you need to do your part by understanding what the sim is, understanding what a sim is, understanding its shortcomings, and filling in the gaps. Like Tristan said, and it's funny that you mentioned the the white cross and those graphics, because I was going to ask you, Tristan, to place a bit of footage from those sims,
Mm.
so that to show people that we come from there. That's where we come from, and it worked for us. A lot of you go out, are always saying that you are going after the frames per second, or the reshaders, or this or that, or those add-ons, because you want to be more immersed in the sim. Well, guess
Tire
what?
smoke, damn it!
It's all in here. It's all in your head. Immersion is in your
Yes,
head. We were
100%.
Yep.
Yes.
just
Yep.
look at the video that we have here showing that old sim. We were fully immersed. Just look at that. It's not
I
even an actual. It doesn't even look like a cockpit,
I know.
but we were
Yep.
flying in our computers. Now just look at what we have nowadays. Do you have the courage to complain about the sim when you have all that right now, and you say that you are not immersed
100%.
enough?
So
Really?
I remember flying. It was the first one that Microsoft put in a jet, and I think it was like a 737-200. I think it was, or 737-200 or 300. I think it was, and it was chromatic screen. So I think it was black, and I think it was either black and white or black and purple. Um, and
Black and purple's good.
and you flew it. You flew it with keyboard, not even with a mouse. You flew it with a keyboard.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm
exactly.
not kidding. I remember flying into something. I think it was supposed to be flying into JFK. You had no idea. It could have been the moon. Like there was all there was there was a couple of like tall buildings in the background with some like white or like colored pixels in them to show lights, to show windows.
Yeah,
But my hands were sweating
and you were landing
because
at
because
and you were
I
landing
was
at JFK, right?
because
You were landing at JFK.
exactly for me
Right.
that was my immersion was that. And you know what, I still, and I talk about this regularly on my live streams. I talk about this, is that, and exactly as you pointed out, Sergio, is that your immersion and your level of interaction is what you make of it. You don't need, yes, it is nice to have shaders, it is like to have volumetric clouds, and yes, it is nice to have tire smoke. Yes, it is nice to have, all these great things. But at the end of the day, it's, VR. Yes, you guys are still hammering me to get VR. I just love how it just waved in as well. So, but but you don't need those things. Do
Yeah,
they? Are they? Okay. So one of the reasons that for me, my immersion for me, I looked at VR. I like it. I don't currently believe I have the graphics cards to really run it properly. So that's why one of the reasons why I don't have it. But at the end of the day, for me,
Fully understandable.
I'm very tactile. I am very, very tactile. And my problem is that with most of the VR headsets out there, is that the pass-through cameras are not of sufficient quality. Because I want to be able to mask out, and I've done this in my real world job, being able to mask out so I can have, actual controls, actual things set up, and have the pass-through cameras so I can actually see and interact with those controls. And right now, for me, as a consumer, those headsets are not affordable.
not a problem.
I'm
Yeah,
not even going to argue you on that one because I'm already thinking of upgrading to the Reverb G2. And right now, that's out of my budget. Why? 2020.
Well, yeah, the true, and that's something else as well, folks. Is that, um, and I'm gonna hammer on about this one. Is that, I really am. Is that we have, as a hobby, unfortunately, we have a very bad reputation in the greater gaming community and the greater community. And that I'm not even going to tell you the opinions that are had of flight simmers from real pilots. I'm not going to tell you about that. But in terms of the wider gaming community, we have a very overall we have a very negative. They have very negative views of us because they see us.
Nerds!
They see us as rich elitists. And the problem is that sadly there is a group of individuals that seem to be trying to gatekeep the to try to gatekeep the hobby. And again, I've hammered on about this, and all three of us have had on about this ad nauseum. Of these simmers, you can recognize them very easily because when those simmers that are new ask and say, "Hey, I've just got insert sim name here. What are the best add-ons? What add-ons do you recommend?" They will say, "You must have PM Pre-K's 8930 and all this lists of crap that probably total about $5,000. So I'm going to ask you, everybody, please let me know in the comments down below if you're somebody under the age of 60 that has about $5,000 of disposable income just to throw at add-ons for a hobby you don't even know if you're going to enjoy yet. I'd love to know you. Please feel free to donate and support Drew Belgio's channel, the great work that HeliSimmer.com does,
link.
and myself as Novawing24. Please feel free to support us. But seriously, guys, like, money doesn't grow on trees. Like, it doesn't. And it's the most hilarious thing is people who think that YouTubers make a shit ton of money. God, if only you knew. If we don't, we hemorrhage money, is what we do. We don't make it.
Yep.
We
We
do
don't.
this.
Yep.
We don't. Why am I awake at 6 a.m. if we're not making money out of this? Man, then
Listen, I am so glad that I do this for the love because going back to my musician times, when you're doing a gig, when you're doing several gigs over the course of a weekend or, like several gigs that you've got lined up a month, and at the end of the night for each gig, you're making anywhere from like $60 to $100 a person. That's it?
And
Dude,
he's still
that's
making
where
more
I
money doing the
developed.
bands rather than doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I kid you
well,
not.
But
I'm not making $60 a day, so
I'm sure it's fucking not. So
$60 in a gig. It's not bad, Drew.
so so the thing is, and the point of what I was saying this is that and 2020 is a perfect example of this. People are struggling everywhere around this planet. So people don't have disposable income. We didn't have that disposable income to start with, let alone after this year. So stop trying to gatekeep our hobby. Stop trying to gatekeep our passion. By saying that you can't do it unless you spend stupid amounts of money. Again, and we circle it back, keep it back, and this again, the base sim is appreciated for what it is. Just because your way of simming involves $5,000 of add-ons, doesn't mean that everybody else's has to. My Microsoft Flight Simulator right now, I have, I think, 7 add-ons in it. All of which either have and of those 7, 5 of those I have purchased purely to review. So there's only 2 in there that I actually bought because I actually went, I really want to fly those. Both of those are Dino airplanes, by the way. So
Yeah.
but but at the end of the day, what do I spend most of my time flying? Sorry, 8 because I got the Iris Jabiru as well. My bad. But sorry Iris. Yes, I love your airplane as well. But the point is I spend vast majority of my time flying the default aircraft. Are they a 100% perfect representation of the real world aircraft? No. Are they?
Do you enjoy them?
Do I enjoy them? Abso-freaking-lutely. I love them. I think they are awesome. I have so much fun zipping around in the Cessna 208 Caravan. I love it. I've not had autopilot issues like some people have. I just, mine works. And I love blitzing and doing stupid shit in the CJ4.
Awesome. You're doing it right. That's the way to do simming.
This is the thing. It's that, exactly. It's about enjoying it. Now, again, if your way of simming involves recreating a flight of a 747-8i from Hong Kong to Tokyo, that's when you want to fly the real world procedures, you want to fly the real world weather, and you want to fly everything by the numbers, go for it. We 100% support you because
As long as you're having fun. Yep.
Exactly. As long as you're having fun and you're enjoying the experience, then your way of simming is just the same as way of simming is mine, as way of Sergio when he tries to hover a cub onto a helipad. We all sim in different ways, so please do not try and gatekeep. And if you find yourself gatekeeping, again, ask yourself why. And that's a big conversation that we want to talk about today, that we really want to bring up to everybody, is that we want to make sure that everybody is thinking about why they're simming. What drew you to our hobby? What keeps you here? And if you are feeling stressed, if you are feeling like you're spending too much time looking at the numbers, chasing 2 things like that, take some time away.
Yeah. Take a deep breath.
I want to give a special shout out, if you will, to those of us out there who are content creators, because believe it or not, we all feel your pain. We can all burn out too. I mean, yeah, we've been basically working from home for the most part throughout the year and so on and so forth. I've actually been on half hours with my day job. So instead of a full 40-hour week, it's like a 20-hour week. And I thought going into this whole pandemic thing that I would actually have more time to record videos and put them up. And, it seems like every video that I put out now, I'm apologizing to people because I'm still behind schedule and so on and so forth. You get into this assembly line kind of mindset when you start getting behind on your videos. And, just trying to catch up seems to be getting further and further. And even though, like we said before, we don't make any money off of YouTube, regardless of whether or not you're monetized or not, you really are not making that much off of YouTube. But if you dedicated yourself to the channel, you dedicated yourself to your viewers, then it does kind of get to feel like work. I just put up a couple of X-Plane videos. I interspersed some Microsoft Flight Simulator. I haven't even prepared version 5. I haven't gone back to version 4, and I still have stuff that I needed to do in version 4. DCS hasn't been touched for how many months now, and I'm still in the middle of the Persian Gulf campaign there. And we won't even discuss Arma 3 because, I just finished season 1 and I've got an entire second season planned out.
What's happening with Voodoo Squad? I have to find out what's happened with Voodoo Squad.
It's all coming, but, it
Two more
gets
weeks?
to this point where you just keep going and going and going because you feel like you have this obligation. And that, my friends, is the number one way that you can burn out. It's like I said at the beginning of this video.
Yep.
When it stops being fun and starts being work, you have a problem.
Yep.
That's when you need to sit back. And thank goodness the EA came out with Star Wars Squadrons. Granted, I haven't put any videos up. I have no desire to put any videos up because I know what's going to happen. Sony or whoever else is going to knock me because of Star Wars music. But for me, that has been the perfect way for me to get away from all of it. The cameras are not running. I don't have to talk for a half hour or 1 hour video. And I know you all love to hear me talk because I just ramble on. But that's the kind of thing that I do in order to, get myself back on track. I take a few weeks and, maybe do some Star Wars Squadrons or maybe get back into Black Desert Online, my absolute favorite MMO. Just something different. And I would encourage all of you, if you're just getting caught into this grind of making videos or doing your live streams, you have to be every day on time.
Yep.
You've got to owe it to yourself to take some time for you. Do something completely different. Even if you want to hop into something like The Sims or something like that.
Yep.
Not knocking The Sims. I love The Sims,
And
do something
exactly
different just to break it up.
And that is valid.
You know something? You're trying to follow those frames per second. You're trying to get those 60 frames per second. You're killing yourself doing that on a sim, but you're getting there. You have no idea how many frames per second you're going to have on the sims. You have no idea how many frames per second you're going to have on any other. You probably, if you're trying to chase the numbers of a sim on a sim and you haven't tried other games because this is you're sticking your nose on the monitor constantly to tweak the sim. Try grabbing any other game and see how cool that game is with the rig you have, because you probably have a monster rig and you are frustrated because it doesn't go where you go with a sim. But
with any other game, it is going to rock the world. And
go try Black Desert Online.
So,
I
cannot overstate this enough for anybody, whether you're a content creator, but especially content creators, just anyone who enjoys simming. It is so important. Just like real world pilots take leave, they take time away. They don't fly, they don't fly 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, or 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. They fly 3 days a week. That's it. So guys, do something different. It's just like, you have work, you have something else. It's the same way when you have recreation. You have your simming, which if you're simming, the three of us, we are all incredibly passionate simmers. but we all play other games as well to help us unwind. Now, me, for example, I feature a couple of different games when I have my Fun Fridays where I deliberately will never sim. I will not play a sim on Fridays, except lately with Star Wars Squadrons. Okay, say that. But yeah, again, it's completely
It's so
removed.
worth it though.
It is. But I play WoW. I play WoW with my better half. So she and I. That's how we have our date nights. Because she lives on the other side of the world, so that can be a challenge. I play League of Legends I think
League of
Ari,
Legends.
because League of Legends and Ari is cute.
That's all you need to know.
It's League of Legends and Ari is cute.
It's
Done.
it's
Sorry.
it's fun.
But
Yeah, it's
it's
fun.
fun because
Yeah,
literally I can completely zone out and I can just completely.
Mhm.
I'm not focused on frames per second. I'm not focused on are these procedures right, or is somebody going to criticize me about these procedures, or do I have to look at am I going to look at that texture set? Do I have to provide a critique on that texture set? I don't have to think about any of that. I can just enjoy.
yeah.
So
And
It's all
when
about.
you're going simming, when you're going to see when are you thinking about when you are thinking about simming? Sorry, I cannot speak
mm,
today. When you're thinking
it's
about
okay. None of us
simming,
can, so it's all good.
do- yeah, do something. Here's a tip. Pretend you're a pilot. Don't pretend you are the mechanic. I don't see any pilots trying to get more juice out of the engines of the aircraft. Right? They are not, they're not doing their pre-flight checks and all that stuff around the aircraft with a screwdriver trying to get more juice out of the engine. No, they just fly the aircraft. Try just try doing that. Just get into the virtual cockpit, do your flight, turn the computer off, or go play at any other game. Now, there's something that I would like us not to forget to touch in this episode, which is we're talking about the actual problem, but how do we recognize this on a community member? Because I think this is very important to try and recognize this on community members and try to help them the best we can. Ultimately, this all this depends on the community member himself.
Yeah.
It's up to the person to recognize the problem and fix it, because you're not going to go to his place or to her place
You
and get her
you
out of the
can't
chair.
live their life for them. Is yeah,
Yeah,
right.
you can't force them, but one of the things that I think that we need to do is to recognize some signs on those community members and at least reach out to them and talk to them and try to get them to understand that this they have this problem and this is happening. And one of the ways of recognizing it's pretty easy, actually. Well, it's 2020 and we have social media, so saying that when you see someone ranting on social media is not exactly the
It's,
thing, right? But when you see someone constantly ranting and constantly complaining about the fact that they have no frame rates, that they have tried this or that, and they're when you see someone constantly hammering on the same subject over and over again, and you understand that this is becoming an obsession, not just a tweak,
mm,
that's a big red flag. That's a big warning that you probably should try and understand where
it's
that person is coming from.
reach out to them and
Hmm.
ask them. Just say and it can be as simple as saying, hey, we've noticed, hey, Joe, I've noticed that you've been commenting and posting a lot lately about you're having difficulty with your frames. I said, are they using? Just say, how's your simming experience? How much time do you spend simming? Do you enjoy simming?
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. Just
do you
remind them.
And the
just
Remind them
most
don't
what.
important thing with that, the absolute most important thing with that, I can't stress it enough.
Look at the
Be
finger.
kind to them
Yeah,
because you have no freaking
this
clue
this
what they're going through.
yes.
Or, alternately, you know exactly what they're going through. Be kind to
And
either
and
way.
and that is a really great way to actually finish that is because at the end of the day, a quote that was given to me very recently was at the end of the day we're all just walking each other home.
Yep.
yeah,
And that phrase really hit home for me this year. Um, we need to be kind of humans to each other. We need to be kind of humans. Um, we don't know what's happening with somebody else, and it is very, very easy with the constant bombardment from social media and the anonymity that is offered by the internet. It's extremely easy to, to pontificate and to name call and to beat down people and to say, oh, you're not a real simmer because you don't have X, Y, and Z, or if you don't know the answer to that question, you're not good enough to be here. Get out. If you have those kind of issues, then you're part of the problem. So the question is, what are you going to do about it? And we all need to make sure that we treat each other with kindness and respect. And if you don't like something, if it's a really old thing that my grandmother taught me, which is if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything.
I think all of our grandmothers said it.
Yeah,
Really not rocket science. But
Hmm.
so make sure people that make sure everyone that you think before you speak and be kind with your words and your intent, because words make a difference. Words are important. Um, and that goes for fellow community members, fellow simmers, fellow gamers, the humans in your life, in your circle around you in real life. And for Christ's sake, it goes for developers too. Right?
Especially be kind to them. We kind of need them to finish up the game.
exactly.
If unless you're willing to spend several years learning code and doing stuff, then you know what, be kind to developers. You can't be as Drew just pointed out, we kind of need them. Oh, that was a bit of a, so yeah, we kind of need them.
That's on Sergio.
I think that is a really
Yeah,
great
you're
point
right.
great point to round out this stream, because at the end of the day, folks, we sim because we want to escape. We sim to enjoy ourselves. If we find, or if you have concerns that a fellow simmer is not enjoying it, reach out to them, because be kind, because 2020's been a shit show. Let's be honest. Like, and 2020 has exacerbated things that were already there. And this shouldn't just be about 2020, by the way, folks. This should be about for all the time. But 2020 is really starting it really helped amplify this. And I know, and the three of us, as we've all spoken about tonight, on this episode tonight, that we've all spoken about how it has impacted us to varying degrees. Um, I to let you guys in on some of you may have noticed that I very spectacularly went dark for almost a month, um, right before Microsoft Flight Simulator went live. Um, I literally was at a point mentally and with my swimming world where I couldn't even make a content for this epic title that was coming out. And it was really tough slog for me to be able to pull it back together again. So I'm glad that I did, but it happens to all of us. So please don't chase the numbers. Please chase an experience. Enjoy your experience and be kind. And with those words of wisdom, I'll throw over to my two rather grumpy simmers to round out their thoughts for the topic.
Absolutely. I keep going back to it, and I'm going to keep going back to it. It has to be fun.
Hmm.
It is not work. This is not why we do this. I ran a virtual airline for 2 years. And that too, when it got to be to the point where I was no longer enjoying flying commercial planes because
Mm-hmm.
the job part of running the VA had taken over everything,
Mm.
I actually did give up simming for a while. I don't ever want to see anybody go through that sort of thing. And I certainly don't want to that kind of a situation. Here I am now. I'm like, what day is it today? The 8th. I'm like 10 days away from turning the big 5-0.
Jesus.
And I would hope that I'm going to have a lot more years of life left. And you know what? I would love to spend a lot of that time doing what I enjoy. I figure I'm
Mm.
at a place in my life right now where I can do the things that I enjoy. Right now, that's flying and making videos for you all and just telling stories, having fun, cracking jokes. That's pretty much what I would like my life to be. I've accomplished everything else that I set out to, other than getting a Grammy Award winning album. You know, priorities change.
Who cares about those
But I mean,
Grammys
that's
anyway?
the thing.
Mm.
That's the thing. You really gotta keep that balance. Gotta keep that balance in your work life, your home life, hobbies, so on and so forth. And time is absolutely precious. Yeah, 2020 has been. We all know what 2020 has been, but we're not. None of us are gonna get out of this alive at the end of the day. So you may as well make the most with everything that you have. And you need to really step back if you're finding yourself in a place where the things that once gave you joy are not. And you need to really evaluate why that's happening.
Yep.
Solve it. It's possible. I'm living proof. You can do it. You can reinvent yourself many times as you need to
Hmm.
get back to that enjoyment. I know everybody can do it.
Yep.
Mr.
Exactly.
Sergio?
Yeah, well, it's very easy to fall into burnout. It's very easy to fall into
Mm.
this number chase and try to get all that immersion and all that stuff that we crave for in a sim. Just make sure you recognize that you are falling into it easily and try to step back from it. Take a deep breath. Rethink your priorities in a sim. Take a break from simming. Just do that for a couple of days, for a weekend, for example. Instead of
Mm.
simming, try any other game. Go to Steam. They have a couple of games there that you can try for
Better
sure.
yet, go outside.
Yeah, go
There's this
outside.
thing
I
called
was,
the world. It's got
Well,
unlimited
I was gonna,
FPS out there.
I was about to say,
actually,
everybody probably noticed that I'm a little bit red at the moment. It's because, like, yeah, I was outside today. Actually, I
yeah,
was racing my first triathlon of the year of 2020
ex-
because I had several planned this year and that didn't happen. So this was my first of this year, and it just about killed me. But anyway,
I would love to. I would love to do that, Drew, but for the next couple of weekends, the area I live in, it's on lockdown, so I
to me,
can't go.
unfortunately, that is a side effect of 2020 is that a lot of people can't go outside. But
Yeah.
but
So, but
As Sergio
yeah,
said, Steam, plenty of titles free too.
there are other games. Just try and find something in which you can lose yourself for a couple of hours.
A-
Just lose yourself.
Alien Swarm, free top-down shooter. Highly recommend it. It's awesome.
Oh yeah, there are a lot of free games out there. Just try something different, and instead of chasing the numbers. And when you go back to your simming, sim. Just just even if it's just a short flight, try not to tweak a single thing. Try not to look at a single number, a single frames per second number. Just fly. Just look at the cockpit and
Just
fly. Do a short fly. Do some circuit patterns, whatever.
mm,
But just get into the cockpit, fly the aircraft, get out of the sim, go make a cup of coffee, go watch some Netflix or something like that.
mm,
Just try to get this new routine of simming and not tweaking the sim.
mm.
If you start doing that, if you start to fight this constant wish of trying to tweak the sim and get more frames per second or whatever, just try to fire it by not doing it. It may sound complicated, but it's that easy. If you don't want to get caught on doing something constantly, just don't do it. Enjoy the sim. And
Yeah,
like
and
Drew said,
be aware of
keep time.
when you do it, take steps to avoid it. And say, okay, you think about frames per second, or I need to check my FPS, or I need to check why that screen isn't refreshing at 120 frames per second.
Yeah,
It's only refreshing at 100. It's like, no, just can you read it? Can you read it? Does it give you the information that you need in the correct time you need it?
Mhm.
exactly.
That's all you need.
Exactly. Is it not twitching, and can you actually enjoy it, enjoy the image? It's not 60 frames per second, it's 55 or 50. But do you actually see that much of a difference? Because if you are seeing that much of a difference between 55 and 60 frames per second, you're either have a medical condition, or you're not simming properly, because most of the times I'm so immersed in actual simming and trying not to crash, I don't even notice if there's if a small amount of flickering, because
That's
it's
all.
5/20 per second less than it should be. Come on,
It's
let's.
also the legacy of flying, a frantic palm tree on a regular basis, but try to avoid crashing.
True.
And look, yeah,
Well,
and again,
everything is always shaking for me, so it's
so
normal.
and like and yeah, exactly. I can't say I agree with the frames per second thing. Like I look at this and I say I run mine at 30. And apparently, a lot of people got very, very annoyed at me because how dare I say that you really don't need that much more. You don't need to sacrifice everything the ultra FPS with a flight sim because you don't. It's about the experience, and this is what we keep talking about: is are you? It does this setting work for you and your experience?
Can you make it
Smooth?
work
Is
for
it
you?
stable? Or is it crashing to
Yes.
desktop?
Exactly.
So
And
at
can you
Then
make
you
it
have a
work?
problem.
Yeah, so I have 30. I have 30 frames per second. Is what I have it locked at,
Yeah.
and I look around the cockpit, and I don't have issues. The only time I have
Yeah.
issues is when I have, and it's a known issue, is that when my sim tries to load in too many AI objects at an airport.
Yeah. But your brain does the rest. That's the thing. That's the compromise I was
Yep,
talking. It's just, yeah, it is not perfect,
yep.
but it's working. My brain just will just kick in. Remember the white cross
Yes,
where you were,
yep.
remember Tristan saying that he was landing at JFK, which it was just a bunch of lines. He was landing at JFK. His brain was doing. That's how immersion works.
Mm.
Immersion doesn't work because you have a full cockpit around you. Immersion works because you believe that you have a full cockpit around you, even if you're not in VR. If you're just using a flat screen,
Yep. But
that's
uh,
how immersion
exactly,
works.
exactly.
Mm-hmm. I'll agree
So,
with that.
so we really
When
want
you
to,
when
yeah.
you Yeah, sorry. I
No,
just
that's
it's
that's
just
right. Yeah, and this is,
when you couple
He's
both
very passionate
worlds.
about this, folks.
but we
I'm
all
worried.
are. Yeah. Yes.
I'm worried because I have good friends in the community that have been burning out. I have seen
Mm,
members of the community, one of the communities that I manage in the helicopter community, and Drew, you know at least one person that has been going through that for a long
Mm-hmm.
time. That person
I know
has,
exactly who you mean.
mm,
Yep.
and he has spending. We were talking about him earlier before we started recording, and look, he has spent thousands of dollars
mm.
on hardware. He has spent countless hours installing reshades, add-ons, and trying to get everything perfect. And he is constantly so frustrated. The poor guy, look, I feel for him. I feel for the guy, but I really tried to talk to him and get him to realize that he has a problem, and it's very hard for me to get him to understand that. But it's frustrating for me to see him that frustrated.
Mm.
It is seriously injuring, and I am genuinely worried about him because he can not only burn out with sims, but he can actually get to a point in which he will just burn out, simply just poof,
And
and the
and
light bulb just go, and
yeah,
because of a sim, right? Because of a sim. So
because
it's
of
not
something that is supposed to be there for fun and relaxation. And this is what we
exactly. So
and this is why we wanted to bring this topic to discuss it because we've always been here, folks, to talk about the issues and the topics that are often uncomfortable to talk about. In the wider simming community, and we're here to talk about those, and we want to make sure we want to check in on you guys. We want you guys to make sure that you check in on each other and check in on yourselves about how your mental health is going, because this year, above all other years, has been an issue, and we want to make sure that you guys are looking after yourselves. And you guys are going to be here to enjoy simming for a long time to come, and that you guys are going to be able to support each other, and hopefully, we have given you maybe some tips and some things to consider um, for the future. So there you go. All right.
There you go.
At the end of the day, folks, be good, be kind, be good humans, be kind is really fundamentally what it comes down to. And with that, we're going to round out this episode. As I said, it was it's a topic that was very important to all three of us, and we did really want to bring it to you guys and we talk about it to you because of things that that we see and we hear, and we want to make sure that you guys are okay. And if you're not okay, that's okay that you're not okay, and then it becomes, well, how do you approach that? And how do you work with your friends, and how do you work with your fellow simmers, and how do you work with your family and your support network? Make sure you do that and you reach out when you need to, whether that be somebody online, whether it be somebody at your workplace, whether it be somebody in your friendship circle, whether it be a professional. All of those are important and support tools to use. I am not, because there is a stigma associated with anything to do with mental health, that we as a global community need to break down. I'm happy to own and say my mental health has been pretty crap for most of this year. But I recognize that, and I'm doing things to try and work with that at the moment. And I know these two fine gentlemen do as well. So there you go. And with that, we're going to round out this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to say thank you so much to my fellow Grumpy Simmers. So thank you very much to you, Sergio, from HealthySimmer.com.
Thank you, guys. See you next time.
And thank you very much to you, Mr. Drew, Mr. Belgeode. It's a shame we didn't see Luna much during this episode. It's always a nice kitty time. She's probably fast asleep.
Yeah, she's back there. She's back there on the bed. I'm just leaving her be because she knows that as soon as I'm done with this, I'm about to steal her bed.
But at least we got the Tomcat as the backdrop, which is very, very important.
This is true. There will always be a Tomcat somewhere.
So, folks, don't forget to head over to Sergio and HeliSimmer.com's website for all your aviation, your flight sim, and especially all your helicopter rotary winged news. And also check out their YouTube channel for their weekly flyby. And don't forget to head over to Mr. Belgeode and his YouTube channel for some great stories and some great reviews and updates as well. And so throw those both gentlemen a bit of a like and a subscribe, and maybe consider giving this channel a like and a subscribe to, and maybe check out some of my content both here on YouTube and also over on Twitch on a regular basis. Twitch.tv/Novwing24. So weird, because having made the move from Mixer to Twitch, it still feels weird saying Twitch, not Mixer. Like, I know Mixer died like 5 months ago, but it still hurts. It still hurts. Anyway, all right, folks, thanks very much for watching. Take care. Safe skies for all. We will see you on the next episode. Bye for now.
Ciao.
Take care.